Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast that breaks down the league formerly known as Matt Brown's Piggy Bank, now known as Henning Bowl and Friends. I'm joined by my co-host, Joe. How's it going, Joe?
Good. Glad to be back.
And Joe brought up a good point last week via text. He said, with this lazy draft, we've got an impeccable opportunity to start breaking down the draft midway through. So we thought we'd drop a quick podcast through 16 and a half rounds, how we feel the draft is shaping up. And we're going to give a little team by team breakdown of each team. You ready to go in?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's start with the first overall pick. What do you have written down for Matt Henning in his draft so far?
Overall, I think that there's just kind of a thick level of layer of quality to a lot of these guys. You kind of look at it top to bottom. There's kind of just solid names, solid situations for a lot of guys. There's some concern around DK Metcalf, but the book, I mean, if he's still Drudge based on his talent level, I think he's probably going to be fine in his age, and getting him in the third round is pretty good, I would say. I think AJ Dillon is a great pick. I looked at that one. I mean, it's just Chris Olave is really, obviously these young wide receivers. It's interesting to see who's going to pop out of this group. And obviously Chris Olave kind of highlights that demographic on Matt's team. I know he's also got George Pickens, which is another good choice. Wan'Dale Robinson. Recently he just picked up Gerald Everett. That was a guy I was looking at. I've had a couple of guys in these late rounds swing in and grab some of my backup tight ends I've been looking to grab. But I'm with this team. I think it's got a solid direction. We'll see what happens with it. I think it's a solid team.
Yeah, and starting off the bat, this is my favorite team so far in the draft. Picking up Jonathan Taylor is a no doubt 101 pick. T. Higgins and DK Metcalf, you're getting two really good established production young guys. AJ Dillon, you already called it out. That's a great pick. I mean, he was like the running back 15 last year. And you got Aaron Jones going into a contract year. Who knows if they're going to re-sign him and pay a running back big bucks. So 2 years from now, we could be talking about a real bell cow running back. I have these broken down into what I like, what I don't like, and sneaky good pick. JT, T. Higgy, and DK, young studs, already showed an elite production. AJ's 1 year from being a bell cow, and like you said, Chris Olave could be this year's Jamar Chase. You got a quarterback there who loves to just let it fly, and so Chris Olave could be, this year's, guy who shows out. You talked about DK not really having the quarterback play. They definitely don't have the offensive line to really sling it deep. But it's kind of clear that the Seahawks are trying to tank for one of the top QBs this year. So you got 1 year of bad quarterback play, and then you got a lifetime of hopefully really good quarterback play with them. What I didn't like is I don't think the year and a half of production that you're going to get out of DeAndre Hopkins really fits well with the timeline of this team. You got a really young team here that's really going to be hitting strides in 2 years. You only got you're losing 6 games of DeAndre Hopkins this year, and then he's probably got like 1 more year left at elite level production. I didn't like where he was picked. I get it to the 8th round. My sneaky good pick for this team is Darrell Henderson, one of the most efficient running backs out there by most advanced metrics. He's truly a good running back. He's also in a contract year, so he's an injury from Cam Akers away from being, a league winner this year, or he signs in the right situation next offseason and you've got, a solid RB1, if not like the best RB2 out there. What'd you think about Tate so far?
Well, I thought similar to some of Tate's other teams that he's drafted. There are things that I just love. But then there are other areas where I'm kind of just scratching my head a little bit. You look at his team. He's got arguably the best asset in the league in Jamar Chase, and then he stacks his QB right on top. I love that for him. That kind of puts him in a chance. That kind of puts him in a position to vaguely, win championships. I mean, I'm not going to say he's like a champion. I'm not going to predict any championships, but statistically, stacking does kind of increase your odds. So he's got that going for him. And then I'm also actually, he got 3 of the value running backs in rounds 6 through 9. Somehow he got all 3 of them. I had kind of pegged Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Devin Singletary all as the sort of guys that were basically, you were getting dirt cheap, but these are guys that actually can give you some fantasy plug and chug sort of relevance. And he managed to get 3 of those guys, which I kind of thought I'd tip my hat out for that. I think the part that's keeping me from absolutely loving this team is how he not only found a way to reach on Saquon Barkley, but he also reached on Saquon Barkley's handcuff and getting Matt Breida, in the 12th. I feel like, you look at other guys that were drafted in the 12th and in the 2nd, and maybe you could have set yourself up a little bit better. But I kind of like the stack. You gotta give a nod to the stack. I always like a good stack.
Yeah, what I like, first thing I have is a Jamar Chase and a Joe Burrow stack is a scary prospect for the next 7 years. He's really set the foundation of this team early on in the draft. Really like that. And I love his wide receivers so far. Jamar Chase, easy wide receiver 1. Jalen Waddle, huge upside there. Jerry Jeudy, I mean, he's can't stay healthy, but I really liked him coming into the league. And then I'm a big fan of Chase Claypool this year. He had arguably a dead man at quarterback last year, and his catch rate or his TD rate was 1.1% last year, and there's no way it goes lower than that. So you're getting a guy who really can only go up from here. Whether you believe in Kenny Pickett or not, there's no way he's worse than Roethlisberger last year. What I don't like, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I don't like every single running back on this team other than Kenneth Gainwell. I actually really like Kenneth Gainwell for where he drafted him. Saquon Barkley, huge reach there. He hasn't been healthy in forever, and it's an awful offensive line, and it's an awful offense that he's on. Miles Sanders, you can take him or leave him. Everyone's been super high on him for 2 straight years. Now everyone's super low on him. We'll see if he bucks the trend. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a nobody in my opinion. And Devin Singletary is now just in a super crowded backfield. Not a fan of these running backs. Huge fan of the wide receivers, not a fan of the running backs. Sneaky good pick for me is DJ Chark, especially earlier in the year. This year, I mean, he's shown elite production whenever he's had a quarterback. And Jared Goff might not be the best quarterback out there, but the Lions are going to be throwing the football. They've got a good offensive line that can get the ball to him deep. I feel like he's going to have a fairly high ADOT this year. Really like the DJ Chark pick, especially while Jameson Williams is coming back from that ACL tear.
Yeah, I think the reason I was intrigued by the Miles Sanders, CEH, Devin Singletary tier is that all 3 of those guys are in they're in crowded backfields. But I kind of like that there's a little bit of ambiguity because it'd be ugly to see any of those guys pop off, but I think like they're all in kind of situations where it could happen. Take its 3 chances at, kind of relatively not that much draft capital to
the issue is he has to start one of those guys every single week because his only other running back is Saquon. Next up, we got Ryan Henning. What was that?
Or he's starting Matt Breida as his RB1.
That's a terrifying proposition.
Devontae Booker was kind of clean for them last year, so we'll see. What I'm going to say about Ryan Henning's team is I always, for whatever reason, at the beginning of the year, I always seem to not really like his teams, and they always end up being really good. I guess this just kind of shows how credible I am as a content creator or whatever you want to call me, whatever I am. Yeah, but they're not sure that this team has, and I sadly am going to continue this trend, and I'm going to be wrong again, I'm sure, but I'm not sure this team has many picks that I'm huge on. I love Justin Jefferson, Can't really go wrong with that. I'm really shaky on the running backs here. Plus, they're all young, and there's a lot of draft capital invested early on in these guys, and I don't even know if a single one of them like really kind of is a proven, and I don't know. I'm not super sold. I love the Jamison Williams. You got to tip your hat to him, although he's apparently still kind of hurt. I think there are a lot of guys that are coming to camp hurt. Something to look out for. Um, Eli Mitchell, I had him on my team last year. We all know about the fob drop on him. I'm not very high on him this year. He had a very high workload when he was getting an 80%, something like that, uh, like touch share or whatever. And I think that's like that. It basically put him in a situation. It basically put him in a tier with like Derrick Henry or something like that. And it's just not like the sort of touch count that is sustainable. I mean, I don't see that happening again this year. And even then, he wasn't like he was only producing at like a low end RB1 sort of clip. So I'm not super high on Elijah Mitchell this year. I think Cam Akers, has some upside, but you also invested a lot in him in the second round, and he hasn't proven anything yet. He also came back really early from a brutal injury. I like the Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard could come in and save the day. Obviously, Allen Robinson was a good pick in the ninth. That one kind of fell. I love the Khalil Herbert pick later on. That was a guy I was targeting, but wasn't able to snag. I think Valdez Scaling has a chance to do some stuff in KC, but we'll see.
Yeah, I what I like about this is he is stacked with RB2s. Cam Akers was RB14 by expert rankings. Antonio Gibson RB17, Elijah Mitchell RB23, Tony Pollard RB31. So you're getting the 14, 17, 23rd, and 31st to pair with the wide receiver too by most rankings, and Justin Jefferson. I mean that's pretty it's pretty scary. He's always going to be able to put functional running backs in those flex spots, while most of us are going to be waiting on boom or bust wide receivers in those third and fourth flex spots. One thing that I found funny, the Cole Kmet Justin Fields stack. We'll see how that turns out. I know you're a big Cole Kmet guy. Justin Fields, he's definitely got the leg. Who knows if he's got the arm? We don't know what that offense is going to look like. Maybe addition by subtraction with Matt Nagy now finally gone. That Bears offense starts to tick a little bit, but I said it could be dangerous. I don't think
the Bears offense is going to be anything this year.
Yeah, I said it could be dangerous to have that stack, but that's a pretty big if. What I don't like is the QB options. Right now, his two QBs are a guy who hasn't proven anything and a guy who's proven everything but has no weapons around him with Aaron Rodgers, and then Justin Fields as his other QB. Sneaky good pick. This was an easy one. Allen Robinson, guy I really was targeting. He's wildly talented. He catches the ball. He's had really high contested catch ratings over the last several years. And it's a pass happy offense. They love to push the ball downfield. There's going to be lots of eyes on Cooper Kupp. So Allen Robinson could absolutely go off this year. So I really like that pick. And then you kind of mentioned it with the Elijah Mitchell. That's a little bit risky, especially because both you and I are pretty high on TDP. And we'll get to that when we talk about your team. You want to head on to Nate?
Yeah. So Nate's team definitely has some there's some good tangible value here. Like right now, you're going to put out a team that's going to compete. They got, you start off with two very good running backs that will anchor this team for at least the next 2 to 3 years with Najee Harris and Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is getting up there a little bit, and Najee's already a little old. And that's a little bit concerning considering running backs are generally kind of depreciating assets in Dynasty. But the upside here is that in that 2 to 3 year window, you got guys like Bateman and Watson, Christian Watson, that grow into large roles while Chubb and Moore and guys like that are still in their prime. And then, if that all kind of falls into place, then there might be a little bit of a championship window that opens up for a couple of years with this team. But that's kind of what needs to happen. And I think they're kind of on the, and I'm also seeing that, they drafted James Conner, which I hate. I love Mike Williams. The Mike Williams pick was phenomenal. I felt like he should have been picked a lot sooner than that. Don't think the rankings really did him justice. Very high, like downfield rate, all the sorts of things that like point to a good fantasy receiver Mike Williams has. So that's good. He's also 27 though. Like I think this team is kind of built to win for the next few years, but I don't know. I'm a little, I'm not, again, like there's one team that's obviously fit to dominate right now. And I don't know if it can really like line up with, I don't know if anybody can really line up with that team right now. So we'll
yeah, I was pretty high on Nate's draft. I think Najee Harris, I mean, the volume of carries that he's going to get over the next several years, and the fact that he's never really had an injury history. Really like that pick, getting the RB2. And then Nick Chubb is a little bit injury prone in a committee backfield, but I mean, he's always been productive. He gets his touchdowns. Relatively young running backs to anchor the team. And then James Conner at 14, obviously he's going to regress a ton. He posted some of the most astronomical, adjusted box ranking or ratings last year. There's no way that he reciprocates that, not reciprocates, whatever the word I'm looking for is this year. So a little bit of a reach there, but I mean, those three running backs are really, good assets to have, and they're gonna show out this year. What I don't like is the disparity between the running backs and the wide receivers. You've got older running backs who are productive and young wide receivers who are going to, hopefully progress over the next couple of years. Rashad Bateman's his wide receiver 2, and he's shown really nothing in his first year to warrant him being safely your wide receiver 2. I don't like the balance of this team in the sense that you've got guys who are super productive but are going down, and then you've got guys who have nothing to prove or nothing proven yet that are on their way up. It just doesn't seem like a nice match there. I've actually got 3 sneaky good picks on this team. David Njoku, where he got him. He just got a 4-year, $71 million contract. So he's going to be playing for a while. And he's only 26 years old. It feels like he's been in the league for forever. But he's still, young enough. Got Deshaun Watson throwing to him outside of after the next 6 games. Calvin Ridley, year-long hiatus. He's going to be coming back at 29. Getting a wide receiver 1, low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 in the 10th round. Can't really complain about that. And then Christian Watson, the wide receiver group in the competition in Green Bay is wide open. And getting the guy who's most likely to take that job is a big win for Nate. So I really like this team. I don't know about the balance.
Yeah, Uh-oh. I think you explained what I was trying to say. And let's flash forward a year. Like we talk about Najee Harris and Nick Chubb being assets. Najee Harris, his value will still be high next year. But like, what's Nick Chubb's value even going to look like even after this upcoming season?
Yeah.
But
it's definitely going down, but
yeah,
he's got a couple more years of production. Sorry.
All right. Well, moving on. They obviously Mello or Mila or whoever disagree. They think Nick Chubb is going to ball out for the next 10.
Yeah, that was Mello. Mila was defending my take, but Mello disagreed. On to me. What do you think about my team so far?
Okay. Well, what I have to say is if there were ever a year to lean into the Jets offense, this is that year. And so this is what you've done. Um, and so that's the bet that this team has taken, grabbing their two coveted rookies, both at pretty, with both like in positions where you get, where you're kind of probably it kind of fell to you a little bit. You got a little bit of value out of those guys. I think some guys were kind of passing on Brees Hall with just a hair. You got him kind of late second round. I know Garrett Wilson, because you got Garrett Wilson, right? He kind of sat around, and then Garrett Wilson is stupidly talented. I think I wonder, how many like real fantasy relevant pieces Zach Wilson can kind of support. Like I think I'm as high on Elijah Moore, if not higher than Garrett Wilson over the next 5 years. I think Elijah Moore is pretty good. Brees Hall, we'll see with that. But I think, the question more so is not the talent of these guys, but how good or bad Zach Wilson actually is. But some good picks, some sneaky good picks are, you gotta, let's see, you got, what I love about this team is the youth. Like this team obviously understands that. Well, I wonder if like, I was going to say like you picked right before Adam. So Everett picked right after Adam. So you wouldn't have known yet that Adam was going to go full guns blazing for this year. But you seem to pivot a little bit. You grabbed Christian McCaffrey, but then you just filled in with guys. I will say, I know I'm sure you love your Michael Pittman pick. That to me is like buying a little bit of hype, but we'll see what happens with him. Ken Walker is very interesting. I think George Kittle was actually a pick that I kind of highlighted. I think like grabbing him after a few tight ends had already been taken in the fifth seemed pretty reasonable to me. Still in his 20s, Travis Kelce is still doing his thing at 34, 35. So tight end position is something you can kind of hang around for a while. Another good pick, sneaky good, Michael Thomas. That's interesting. There's something to be said about that. Noah Fant was a good pick. Yeah. All in all, we'll see how the Jets do. And then otherwise, you got some other good players.
Yeah. So what I like about my draft so far, I've gotten all caps. Ooh, baby, the youth on this roster makes me rock hard. What I don't like is I'm clearly not going to compete this year unless, Brees Hall is way better than he's expected to be, or, Ken Walker does anything. I don't expect the Seahawks offense to be any good. He's more of just a stash guy. I took Christian McCaffrey with the hopes that he stays healthy, and at the trade deadline this year, I could flip him for young assets. I thought that with us starting a dynasty league this year, people are going to undervalue the young guys who haven't proven anything yet. And I was right. I mean, getting Brees Hall in the 8th pick of the second round is way lower than I expected. And then Ken Walker in the 4th. Those two guys I didn't expect to be there. And Irv Smith Jr., I know he just had thumb surgery, but he should be ready for week 1. I got a bunch of young talent, and I've got a couple of old vets that if they stay healthy, I can flip for young assets midway through the year. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deshaun Watson, just sit out those 6-game suspension, find a team that needs a QB, flip him for young assets. Michael Thomas, another guy, if he seems healthy this year, someone's going to pay, a nice young asset for him. So I'm really focused on the future. I knew I wasn't going to be able to compete this year. And the one thing I really don't like is how indexed I am in bad offenses. I've got 2 of the top weapons on the Jets. I've got my 4th round pick plays for the Seahawks. I'm on Ross St. Brown. I've got Russell Gage in Tampa Bay, but like he's the 4th wide receiver on that team. So and no offense of the Seahawks. So I've got 2 Seahawks as well. So I'm a little bit over indexed in bad offenses, but bad teams tend to be throwing the ball a lot because they're behind late in games. So, not in love with my draft so far. I have no intention of competing this year, but I figure if this league stays around for 5 years, I'll be pretty good.
As someone who's kind of new to Dynasty, you kind of you touched on a point that I'm trying to wrap my head around, and it's that sometimes it's good to kind of have a stash of veterans, even if you are, a rebuilding team, because those are guys like if you have a stash of guys who are veterans, but who are producing, who are going to produce very solidly, like guys like George Kittle, especially like George Kittle at that sort of at a position where you don't have too many guys like that. That's nice. That's a nice situation to be in at the deadline. You can stash away some picks, which will be very valuable to be holding.
All right, you want to talk about the dark side?
Yeah, the dark side. Yeah, this is going to be just an absolutely brutal team to match up with, for anyone this season. Hats off to Adam for assembling what could be the most dominant team our league ever sees. I'm looking forward to the week where you play him. That's going to be quite a scoreboard. It'd be amazing it'd be quite a David versus Goliath matchup right there. I don't even know if I need to get into like the draft picks with this one. They kind of speak for themselves. Obviously this team can only be addressed as a win now team. And looking at it that way, if there's any concern, I don't understand why maybe they waited so long to pick a QB. That's kind of a glaring weakness. And, you picked a guy like Portland, someone could have had Kyler Murray, or maybe not Kyler Murray. I'm trying to think how that order would have worked.
Kyler went after Hurts.
Did Kyler go more after Cortland Sutton? He went right before, I think. Anyway, I think you probably could have done better than Derek Carr if you're a win now team. That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, that offense is going to throw the ball a lot this year. I don't really hate it. I mean, Adam's clearly pushing for a win this year. Cortland Sutton is going to, benefit a little bit from Tim Patrick tearing his ACL already. The one pick that totally confuses me is the Odell Beckham Jr. pick. When you're clearly putting all your chips on the table to win it year one, drafting a guy who tore his ACL, 7 months ago, is not necessarily the best move. But Derrick Henry, Deebo Samuel, Travis Kelce, David Montgomery, Mike Evans, like those guys are going to produce for this team. This is going to be a really good team this year. What I don't like, James Cook is your only youthful piece, and he's not even that great of a young piece. I love the Ronald Jones pick. Ronald Jones is actually an exciting player in fantasy this year for me, and that is disgusting to say. But that's all I have to say about Adam's team. It's too gross to look at anymore. You want to talk about Evs?
Yeah, let's get into Ev's team. This is I kind of like this team like a lot. I think that this team is like one of the more. It actually kind of has some nuance to it, which I think like the league as a whole is kind of lacking. It definitely I'm just I'm speaking about it as if it were like kind of a being, but it absolutely understands that it has absolutely no, like you were saying earlier, it understands it has no shot at winning a title this year. And I fully respect, and I respect that. It's obviously got all these young pieces. I will say I don't really like a single one of the running backs on this team. What do we have? We've got Dalvin Cook. That doesn't make any sense at all for a team that's not win now. J.K. Dobbins is interesting. The upside is there, but there's also, is he even healthy? Like there's like still weird. There's still stuff swirling around, and how proven over a 17 game full season is J.K. Dobbins. I don't know how much trust I can place in him. And then I'm also really, I know Rashad Penny balled out towards the end of the last year, but I'm pretty low on him, given what the Seahawks offense looks like and going out and getting Kenneth Walker. That's his name, right?
Yep.
And I'm not sure how I feel about Rashad Penny for this year.